Hello everyone and welcome back to the Big Bear and Little Bear channel. Today we're going to be going over some new changes that are happening in Deceive Inc. If you haven't heard about it, Deceive Inc. is a super fun game where you play as a spy and you try to break into a vault and steal a briefcase before the other players do. You have a bunch of different agents that have different weapons and abilities, and you need to utilize those abilities to not only trick the other players, but also the NPCs that are around the world, so then you can get in, steal the briefcase, and extract. Now, the first big update that happened to Deceiving was called Misery Empire, and that one had just gone through. Now they're having what their first is intra-season, which is kind of like a mid-season patch. This one's going to be called High Alert. The reason why they're calling it High Alert is because it's going to be heavily focusing on increasing the consequences for reckless actions. And these reckless actions are things such as knocking out civilians and also just wildly firing and going into areas with improper disguises. Now, I think this is a super good idea because one big part of the game that I really like is the stealth and hiding in plain sight aspect. And a lot of the time, you get a lot of players who will just start wildly firing at anybody they see. And it kind of takes away from being the sneaky stealth kind of spy game from it when you can just kind of
There's
shoot anyone you
security.
see.
What's for
Now, the main change that they're doing
Next
is they're
time,
changing the
try to
heat
do it yourself.
mechanic to Heat 2.0. Heat was recently introduced in the Misery Empire update.
I'll take it.
It was put there to stop people from being super aggressive, like I mentioned, just attacking everybody. It used to be that downing an NPC would give you heat, but downing a guard would give you
Trash this
no heat.
position. Gonna find
Now
more
they're going to be
chemical
increasing
here.
the values gained in all ways, and this is going to be like a base framework for other changes in the future. Heat now is gained on damaging NPCs, not just downing them. It used to be that you could take a couple shots at somebody, and as long as you didn't down them, you wouldn't get any heat at all. Now, what they're going to be doing is that the heat gain will be based on the NPC's health. And also, downing two NPCs worth of people will give you a heat level. There's three heat levels. The only exception to this is the VIP. Now, in every game, there's a VIP who can go anywhere without being stopped by guards, and obviously, them being a very important person. If they are downed at all, then you immediately will gain two heat levels. He is also being gained by being scolded. Now, getting scolded happens when you're either out of cover or you're in the improper cover while in a restricted room. So if you're wearing a staff outfit in the guard room, then the guards will tell you, hey, you're not supposed to be in here, and then you will slowly start to lose your cover. Now you're going to be gaining heat as well. Now, the penalties for getting heat will now stay a bit longer, and also they will be like the whole time you're in that level. Because it used to be that once you hit a new heat level, it would only be a few seconds you would have whatever debuff it would be, then it would go away, and then your heat meter would go away.
We do not want
Now
to
it'll be the entire time you have that heat meter, you'll also have the debuffs. Also, now they're going to make it to where you lose heat a bit faster while in cover. That way you're not constantly at full heat.
health critical.
Also, as you can see in this picture here, they're making a change to the UI, where they're making it to where you can easily see what version of heat you're on, and also it will show you whatever debuffs you have, based on what level heat you have. Now, guards will also be giving heat upon getting hit and downed, so you'll have to be careful before attacking them, and you'll have to kind of weigh the options if downing this guard is worth it in the time. Another good idea they had as well to cover up an issue with this is that once you hit another player in a firefight and it's like, their cover breaks and everything, you have a few second window between you hitting them and the next time you hit them where if you hit an NPC, it won't gain you any heat. Which is one thing when I was first reading this, I was kind of worried about because I know there's a lot of times where you're in a firefight and you're not hitting every shot, and there's civilians who are trying to run away from you and it just would not work for you at all. They're making it to where there's a bit of a grace period, and I think it's a really good idea, honestly.
Last time I
One of my
checked,
favorite
it was
changes,
a
though, is
war.
there's a new type of guard being added. They're called elite guards. Now, elite guards will have access to every room in the building except for the vault terminal room, the vault room. They'll be accessing the vault terminal rooms, which normally can only be accessed by technicians, but technicians are only found after the vault terminal is already opened. They're the people who are at like the purple level security. Now there's going to be those other guards in there because now it's like you walk into the vault terminal area. If you see any other person there, 100% you know that's a player because only players and technicians can go in there. And NPCs will not go into rooms that they're not allowed to go in at all. Now, these elite guards are also going to be giving a lot more heat because they have a lot more HP, so it takes longer to kill them, and they can do a lot more damage than your regular guard. Regular guards only do like 5 hit points of damage a second. They're very weak compared to other players. Now, another way that they're going to try to balance out the heat is that they will give out a new version of the spy cache. Whenever you kill another player, they'll drop a little box, and it will give you health, and now it's going to give you cover as well as all their upgrades that they have. Plus, also, they're going to be looking a bit different, and I would 100% expect in the future that they're going to either add skins or inks to change these spy caches. They didn't outright say it in the patch notes, but I mean, looking at other games, it's very, very possible they'd be doing that. Now, a quality of life change that they're adding is a dossier with all the NPCs' names, so you can give callouts to your teammates, like, oh, hey, I know that that Larson is, this NPC, for example. I think it's kind of a cool idea. It's not really needed, but it's just something that'll be nice for a lot of people who get into the game. There's also a list of status effects and everything they do to you and like how long they last and everything. Now, XP boosters are getting a small change that's going to align with a lot of other games that have them. Currently, when you use an XP booster, it is active for an hour straight. It doesn't matter if you're playing or if you turn off your PC or console, it constantly is going, which I think is really annoying because it tends to waste them if you're not actively constantly in a game. Now it's going to be the only time they count down is when you're in a game. And if it expires before the game ends, it will just continue for the rest of that game, and then when you get out, it will be gone. One thing that another doing that I think is really cool is they're making it faster to change your disguises. Right now, I think it takes about 2 seconds to change a disguise. They're cutting that down by a fair margin to where you won't have to walk with the person anymore to change disguises, because that's something that I feel like I have to do a lot, where I have to walk with an NPC for a second while I'm holding down my watch to change cover with them, and it's going to make changing a lot easier. Another thing they're adding is that they are making it to where there's going to be a penalty for crouch speed after crouching 3 times in a row. This is a tactic that a lot of people use in firefights where they will just start trying to teabag fast, so it's a lot harder to hit them. And personally, I'm really happy they're getting rid of this. I haven't seen it too much, but I always hate people who do that, or in other shooter games where they, drop shot and completely lay down on the floor to make it harder to hit. So yeah, that's some other changes. Now we're getting into the agent changes. So for a global change, they are making it to where the time that your headshots are negated is going to be lower. It's going from 1 second to 0.7 seconds, which is an indirect buff for characters like Madame Shu and Red, who use fully automatic, fast-firing guns, because it used to be that you could not score a headshot on a covered player for 1 second after they got their disguise blown. Now it's going to be 0.7 seconds. Another generic change that's going to be happening is game-wide, they're going to be increasing the reload speed for pretty much all the characters on all their weapons. So we're going to start with Ace. Ace is getting an across-the-board nerf to almost all of her weapons, increasing the reload speed and even lowering the damage on some. Personally, I never run into very many aces whenever I'm playing. I think the reason why is because her weapon takes a lot more skill than others, which is why I never use her, because I can't ever hit anybody with her. But she is getting a small buff to her passives, where they're going to be lowering the duration for you to charge your shots, which is going to make it easier to do a bit more damage at a pinch, and also kind of indirectly makes it to where the damage nerfs aren't as much anymore on her other weapons. Now, Cavalier is getting a buff to her damage on her main weapon, and a nerf to her damage, and a nerf on the damage to her Hydras. The reload time for all of them is being increased, and the fire rate on the Hydras is being lowered. Personally, I think she really needed attention with her base guns. They did so little damage, and I felt like it took forever to kill anybody. So this is like a kind of a small change. I was kind of hoping for a bit more. So, I mean, I'm interested in seeing how it's going to affect things, and we'll see once it's implemented. Chavez is also joining the club of slower reload times. All three of his guns are getting an increase in their time to reload, but his first mod, the Vigilante, which is the first extra gun you unlock, is being nerfed for damage and the limb multiplier, which will make it less of an obvious pick, because apparently it's the most popular revolver for him. Hans is not getting any buffs and changes, honestly. I'm sure pretty much everybody wanted him to get something to make him better, but the only change is that there's just going to be a massive time to his increase in reloading. I think he needs a faster reload time, personally, because right now he is very firmly sitting in F tier, and one of his only saving graces is that he reloaded his weapons a lot faster than other people did. But now that he's going to be stuck like this, he's going to be even weaker and spending more time firmly in the F tier. Larson is one of my favorite agents, but I think he is extremely busted. This dude is so strong. He has an extremely good ability, and his weapons are pretty good once you get to use them. The only change he's getting is that his pickpocket ability is going to generate heat when trying to spy check other people. I really think they should have changed a few other things on him, maybe lowered his reload speed as well, because he has one of the fastest reload speeds to begin with, and if they're going across the board with reload speed changes, then why not edit him at least a little bit? But Madame Shu is going to be sitting right next to Hans in the group of I only got my reload speed changed. I'm personally fine with those changes. I feel like overall, Madame Shu's pretty strong. She's in a decent spot, and I don't think she needs that many buffs or anything, and I'm glad they didn't nerf her a bunch. Red is my favorite agent, and she's getting a few changes to her weapons, which I'm fine with. One thing I find weird is that the developers seem to be very convinced that her Jack of Hearts mod is her best mod for her weapon. Personally, I've tried it a few times, and I don't care for the gun at all. I think that the time to kill is way too high, and it's just not that easy to use. So, I mean, it doesn't really bother me that they're nerfing it, but yeah, they're going to increase the reload speed as usual, and they're going to nerf that gun a bit. Now, Red's expertise is also being tweaked a bit. Her Sweet Embrace, which I think is the best, which will heal you and cleanse negative effects and give you your cover back for you and your teammates, is now going to no longer cleanse negative effects, which I'm fine with because I mainly use it to heal and get my cover back up. Love Bomb also is being changed, where it's going to no longer show its radius to enemy players, but it will show the bomb to them. So if they can physically see the bomb, then they'll be able to know it's there, but it will no longer show them the red radius. Now, Squire is getting the most changes out of every agent. He's an extremely strong and really good agent, even though I'm just not a big fan of his weapon at all. His base gun Lance is getting a mag size increase, a slower reload time and fire rate, and of course, a damage nerf. Personally, I feel like I can never kill with it now, as it is, and the devs think that he's one of the best agents in the game, so they're giving some nerfs to his other guns, such as the Javelin, which is also getting a nerf to its crit damage and fire rate. Personally, I think all of Squire's guns shoot really slow and don't do that much damage, so I mean, I'm not a big fan of him to begin with. But his passive Aegis is also getting a nerf. The devs really want to tone down on damage reduction in the game, so they're going to be lowering the duration of his passive and also the amount of damage that it blocks. Yumi, which I have never played personally, I just think that her weapon is extremely boring, and her whole gimmick of using gadgets isn't really that interesting to me. The devs seem to also agree with me to at least a certain extent because they're really trying to make her more viable. She's going to be getting a better cooldown reduction with her quick fix ability, and her mod Booby Trap will expand the size and duration of the bubbles that are made with it. Apparently, this was supposed to be implemented in the Misery Empire update, but they put it in the patch notes and didn't implement it into the game. Also, her other mod, Energy Catalyst, will increase her expertise cooldown from 33% to 50%. Now, to end us off, the official Deceive Inc. Twitter said that it's going to be a fun week. So we're hoping that the update will come out sometime this week. There's been no real official news yet on an official drop date, but yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe for more generic gaming content. Big Bear out.